Hello and welcome to Podcast of the Rings, a podcast about Lord of the Rings. I'm Jessica Lynn Verdi, and with me is my podcasting partner, life coach for Lord of the Rings, Alexander Mitchell. Hello.
Hi. Wow. All these titles, all these new titles.
Hello.
Wow. I mean, there is, I always come back to this. There's so many names for everybody in Tolkien, so I'm happy to have some more titles and names. It's fitting.
Yeah, you are fitting. It's so. I'm glad to have you be all these things to me, and it is going to be different without the good old Goddard. I think we're just going to bore him with this stuff, though. Anyway, so we'll have to have him back for more exciting.
Yes, the high octane adaptations are Ben's specialty.
Totally. And, we do, this is speaking about another guest potential. But, for those of you that don't know, we have a Patreon, and now we have a Patreon goal. If we get to 20 Patreon members, is that high? 20?
No, that's totally.
I think it's shooting for the stars.
And you'll land among the moon?
The moon.
Strike that, reverse it.
Yeah, exactly. If we get 20 subscribers on Patreon, we will watch the Lord of the Rings porno and have Scott Rubin on as our guest to talk about the lore accuracies and inaccuracies.
That's right up his alley.
What a euphemism.
Right up there.
Well, because that's not really. I think that would be for patron exclusive people too, because that's not really our.
That's not main feed content. No,
it's not main feed content. But if you're a patron, you'll get special access to that. If you become one of the 20 patrons that we will eventually have, you'll definitely get access to it. I'm excited though. I think that's a great idea.
Oh yeah, two great tastes that go great together.
What a great call to action.
Yeah.
Because you're right. Things with Ben were super high octane. And because of that, I just would forget to do our tradition that we forced us to have.
Yes, it's making a triumphant return.
I did remember today, and you did too, which I'm grateful for. Partially, we were like, what are we going to talk about? And we do have fun stuff to talk about today.
Oh, yeah.
Because as some of you who may know about the personal lore of Alex and Jessica, Alex has been reading The Lord of the Rings to me. We finished The Hobbit, which is why we kicked off the Hobbit series. And now we're in the middle of The Two Towers. So because
the end of The Two Towers.
Yeah. Fair, yeah. Because of that, we're going to talk about something specific today. But before we kick that off, Alex, are you ready to have this episode's tarot read?
Oh, I'm so excited. To
see what card is going to be our fate, our doom, as Tolkien would say?
Yes, our doom. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for this return. I'm excited. Hopefully we get some interesting reads on these cards.
Okay, well, it's just going to be one card, so You're going to tell me when to stop in just a moment. All right.
You
tell me what?
She's shuffling the cards.
Well, now no longer I'm shuffling.
She was shuffling the cards. She's spreading the cards.
I'm spreading the cards. This is what our porno episode's going to sound like. All right, you tell me when to stop.
And stop.
Okay. This is I think I know who this is. It's the Queen of Swords, upright.
I mean,
I know.
Eowyn?
I'm gonna be really surprised if it's not. It's got to be. Let's see. Yep.
All right.
Let's see.
Can you hold up the art on the
Queen of
card
Swords,
for me?
Eowyn.
So I can see. Yeah, so we have, red sky in the background, helmet at her feet, the fell beast Slade at her feet, it looks like, and she's looking like a badass.
Is that a barrel on her back? Like she's like a.
What is that? There's
What is
something
that?
with like a symbol. I can't tell what that is.
Oh no, it's not. It's the cleft head.
Oh, okay.
It's the shorn head of whatever beast.
Yeah, the fell
she
beast.
felled. It's or like their wraith maybe, or like their like winged. Wait, I think she killed a dragon. I don't know. It looks like
the fell beast. The things that the Nazgul.
Oh, is that what they're called?
Yeah.
I didn't know that that's what they were called.
Mm-hmm.
All right, that's exactly what it is then. All right, upright. Whew. All right, I think this is about me for you.
Okay.
There is no one better to have on your side than this fearless queen. Eowyn conducts herself confidently, embodying the Queen of Swords with her independence and strength.
Yes,
she represents.
Queen.
Yes, no, don't do that. I think that's appropriation. She represents self-sufficiency, suggesting that you are capable of forging your own way. While you may want to take counsel from your friends and family, ultimately your own opinion holds more value. Eliminate emotional communication. Stop being a woman. Eliminate emotional communication and focus on facts in order to get the truth, even if it may seem a bit blunt.
I feel like that's. I mean that I relate to that last part of like me, my pragmatism and looking at the facts of the situation and trying to be analytical. I mean, that fits with me.
Yeah, it does. I was, and this is like the truth of all astrology and tarot and woo-wooism is you can make anything work.
Yeah.
To if that's what relates to you, you and I are very opposite in that I'm impulsive and I might take advice. I will not listen to it. So there's enough keywords that both of us can find something to relate to.
Yes.
But it's good. It's really good, and I like the artwork. I don't know that I'm excited to get more into Eowyn, and we'll obviously have a whole episode where we talk about just her. Because when watching the movies, you want to be Arwen. Because she's the most beautiful. I mean, at least that's how I felt. I always have liked Liv Tyler, too. Funnily enough, my sister kind of has a Liv Tyler vibe.
I can see that, yeah.
Liv Tyler could be a sister, for sure. So that might be one of the reasons why I was, like, drawn to her as, like, a woman icon. But totally. I think as I age and get more experience, I think Eowyn I'm, like, relate hard with.
Yeah. Well, and that is the sort of the downside of Tolkien's work, at least, well, Lord of the Rings at least. As a woman looking at role models and characters to relate to that are women, you have basically two options. I guess Galadriel's in there, but she's
Galadriel's in there, and you could be river goddess, I guess, if you really want to, or you can't really leave your house because you're getting magnolias put at your feet or something like that.
But few female characters that have a lot of agency, sadly, and that's I think I've said this, but one of the things I actually enjoy about the Peter Jackson adaptations that they change is giving Arwen a little bit more agency and things to do, and she's not just sort of the princess in the tower that she is in the books.
Here's what gets my goat a little bit. You can't talk about Rings of Power being woke and enjoy the Lord of the Rings movies then. And I know there's people who come for it, like, because it's sexist, because it wants to be, because it makes Arwen a little bit more. Arwen's a badass too. It's just not described in the books necessarily. Anyway, I don't know. I just have a whole problem with people. I have a problem with people who are like, well, you can't change this, but you could definitely change that, or this isn't what the books were.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I disagree that Arwen is a badass in the books. She's not. She's just
no. Is there no history of her being badass elsewhere?
She's just a princess that kind of is there for
Good for her
to marry.
But she's an elf. She can do whatever she wants.
Yeah, but she doesn't.
Capable,
they give her the role of Glorfindel bringing Frodo across the river, and then there was. I would love one day if this came out, but there was because they changed Helm's Deep to have the elves come and aid the men, which I don't necessarily like that change, but
Right.
there was footage shot of Arwen being there and fighting, but that was cut. So that was one of the things that that Peter Jackson added to kind of, again, help her just be a badass, which would have been cool to see, but I don't know why they cut it. Probably just for time.
I know why they cut it, because you weren't supposed to be sure whether him and Arwen would get together. Aragorn and Arwen were to get together. So if they were there, they would obviously have had a conversation and be like,
yeah, maybe.
Hey, do you still like me? And then Eowyn's like, you know.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So
just even more awkward.
Yeah,
Eowyn,
it would have been so
Aragorn
bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, they had to cut it because it didn't go with this forced Elrond, I don't want you to be with my daughter.
Right.
Plot line.
That would have been great, though, is Aragorn and Eowyn are having a moment where she's just totally losing her mind over him when he's eating soup or whatever. You know, he's eating more of her soup, and then Arwen just steps in frame like, who's this girl? Who is she?
Oh, Aragorn? No, Arwen wouldn't even do that. Arwen wouldn't even do that. She wouldn't even care.
Yeah.
Arwen would be like, Arwen would pick up the soup and be like, what is this gruel? how this will make you ill. I can just smell it from here. I
can smell it a mile away. My elven sense of smell.
100%. Like, this is gonna kill you. What the heck? No, it would be really. It would become clearly the Bellamy immediately.
Yes.
Immediately. Well, we have so much more to talk about. Speaking of women with agency, actually,
yes.
You're forgetting about one huge icon.
Very huge, very large.
I could choose to be like if I wanted to be. Today we are talking about Shelob.
Ungoliant
and Shelob.
Yeah, mainly Ungoliant.
On Podcast of the Rings. Alex, I am so excited to go back into just lore world with you. So the reason why we are talking about Ungoliant, is it Ungoliant? Ungoliant? How do you spell her name?
Ungoliant. Ungoliant is what I've always said. Ungoliant.
Ungoliant.
I mean, yeah.
Ungoliant.
Potato.
No, sure, but I was like thinking Ungoliant. Ungoliant is a huge towering figure from the Big Deep Four times in Lord of the Rings. And as I mentioned, we just got through the chapter where Frodo and Sam have been lured to Shelob's quarters by the Sneaksea Gollum.
Yes.
So and that was such an excellent chapter of just some tense writing, like we haven't experienced really in a while. We kind of got that kind of tension when Pippin and Merry are escaping the orcs for the last time when that guy, but like we also know that they're like gonna make it out. There's so much of what happens in the first part of Two Towers that we know works out fine because it's being told to us retroactively. But this is like one of the first times where things are happening and we're like, dang, I have no idea what's going to happen.
You don't know. You don't know if they're going to be okay. And it's, Tolkien does such a great job of pacing these moments. Like we have this, one of my favorite conversations in the book in the chapter prior on the stairs of, leading up to Cirith Ungol, where Sam and Frodo are just having a nice moment of trying to cheer each other up. And there's that great passage of, it was the first time that place had heard laughter since Sauron had entered. So we get this nice sort of uplifting moment before they're just plunged into pure darkness and terror. And that is the realm of the spiders and the spawn of Ungoliant in these stories is terror and darkness. So it's just so good. So in order to understand Ungoliant's kind of role, we have to go all the way back. If you'll remember, back when we were doing the prep of what lore you should know for going into Rings of Power, the Silmarils, the namesake of the Silmarillion. They play a very important role in this tale, as they do in many tales.
Hard to believe.
I know. It's like the central thing in Tolkien's mythology. Crazy. So, brief overview of setup for like what we need to know going into Ungoliant's story is, if you'll remember, we had Feanor and Fingolfin. Jess, this is a pop quiz. Do you remember who they are?
Crap. Feanor and Fingolfin sound like Galadriel's brothers? Or uncles?
She is related to them.
Who's the creepy uncle?
Yes, Feanor.
So yes. Feanor's a creepy uncle who who made the Silmarils.
Correct. Yes. Good.
And Fingolfin was the one who fought and led the elves into battle. He
is Feanor's half brother.
Okay.
So if you remember, Finwë was the king of the Noldor, their dad, and then his first wife died in childbirth, giving birth to Feanor, and then he remarried and had all his other sons.
I feel like that shouldn't happen to an elf.
Well, Feanor is just so awesome and the greatest elf ever that it was too much. It was too much. So she, did die.
I feel like that shouldn't happen.
Yeah, well, it makes sense. It makes sense because Feanor is just so cool.
Sure.
So we have Melkor kind of redeemed. He's been captured after his...
Who's Melkor?
Who's Melkor? The big baddie.
Oh, wait.
AKA Morgoth.
Morgoth. Yeah. Thank you. Morgoth, I know.
Yeah, he becomes Morgoth because of these events. So he's known as Melkor prior.
Okay, let's just help me out a little bit and our audience.
Jess, you need to know 5 names for everybody in Tolkien. Okay, they all have 5 at least names.
Alex the lover, the podcast host.
Exactly. So Melkor, aka Morgoth, Feanor makes the Silmarils, and he's like, I want those. And also, I'm still evil, and I'm just biding my time. So he starts sowing distrust and suspicion among the Noldor elves, including Feanor and Fingolfin, and leads Feanor and Fingolfin to have this big blow up in front of their dad, where Feanor draws a sword on Fingolfin and gets in trouble with the Valar for that. And then eventually, I'm breezing through this because it's not super consequential.
Well, the Valar are the elves.
Nope.
The Valar are the Maya.
Yes, the Valar are like the lords of Valinor.
I understand, and Valinor, and they created the elves, which are Noldor elves. Well, Why are they Noldor?
They
elves?
did not create the elves. That's
Eru Ilúvatar. But Eru Ilúvatar is who? What is he?
He's God.
Just God.
He's the one.
Who were the Valar to Eru Ilúvatar?
Basically angels, but they're
like he created them.
Yes, Eru created everything.
So Eru was like, I want angels, and you know what? I also want elves.
Yeah, because the elves and the men and everything are his children.
But why did he let the Valar roll over the elves?
Roll over the elves?
Rule.
Oh, rule, because they're the lords of the world, basically.
I see. So he's just like, I'm going to make this. You guys are in charge. So he's just like,
exactly.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly.
Cool.
So, so Feanor, after drawing his sword on his half brother, is brought before Manwë for judgment, and he sort of
who's Manwë?
The Lord of the Valar.
Okay.
I know, a lot of names. It's been a minute. We've been in Hobbit world where none of these names are brought up. So Manwë's the Lord of the Valar. So he reveals what Melkor had told him, and it comes out like, oh, okay, we realize Melkor's been manipulating all of this, and Melkor flees Valinor. He flees, and he makes his way to the realm of Avathar, which is on Aman. Aman is like the western continent. Aman is the whole continent. Valinor is the realm of the Valar where the elves are living, and then Avatar is kind of this region in the southeast.
No, Avatar is The Way of Water by James Cameron.
There you go. So he makes his way to Pandora. and he and Ungoliant are gonna do the thing where they touch braids, and that's how they bang. Isn't that the thing, right?
Wait, Melkor's bangs with Ungoliant?
I'm sure there's a slash fic out there because, oh boy.
Well, no, it has slash is when it's two boys.
I thought slash is just any two characters.
Nope.
Really?
Nope. Slash is two boys.
Oh.
Then fanfic is, erotic fanfic is just erotic.
No, because I thought slash comes from it's like name of character slash name of character, and they're together. I don't think it's necessarily related to gender.
I heard slash fic referred to specifically same gendered couples.
Oh, same gendered. Okay, not just any couple. All right. Well, whatever kind of fic.
I would love Geeks with Shields to answer this, or Scott Rubin, or our audience.
Yes,
to answer
experts,
it. But
please let us know. Inquiring minds.
I don't claim to know the honest, but that's how I know it.
Well, we'll get to also fanfic fodder about Shelob a little bit later in this episode.
No.
There's some for fans of video games. You'll know. Anyway, Melkor makes his way to the lair of Ungoliant. It's interesting. So I'm going to read a bit of a passage. There's going to be some quotes from the Silmarillion in this episode because I think the way I love the way Tolkien writes about Ungoliant, and so I want to let the audience hear it in his own words, and we'll talk about it. So she's introduced in the chapter of the Darkening of Valinor, which is all about the slaying of the two trees, which she takes part in. So here's the introduction we get.
Really quickly. So the trees have not been destroyed yet.
Correct. This is the lead up to it. She plays a part in that tale. So this is our introduction to Ungoliant. The Eldar knew not whence she came, but some have said that in ages long before she descended from the darkness that lies about Arda, which Arda is just the world.
Right, that I actually do know.
Okay, just making sure. It's been a minute. So she descended from the darkness that lies about Arda, when Melkor first looked down in envy upon the kingdom of Manwë, and that in the beginning she was one of those that he corrupted to his service. But she had disowned her master, desiring to be mistress of her own lust, taking all things to herself to feed her emptiness. And she fled to the south, escaping the assaults of the Valar and the hunters of Arome, for their vigilance had ever been to the north, and the south was long unheeded. Thence she had crept towards the light of the blessed realm, for she hungered for light and hated it. So we get a lot of information about her in this passage that I like this idea that we don't really know like where Ungoliant comes from.
Is it just because Tolkien doesn't want to write that background?
No, because he easily could, make her, and some speculate like, oh, maybe she's a Maya spirit. Mm-hmm. But I really enjoy this idea that she just comes from the darkness. Like, it's this kind of unnamed thing that the darkness bore, and she also spreads darkness. I like that idea that she's kind of this wild card force that Melkor corrupted, because they kind of had similar goals. And we'll see why I like this idea later in the story because of what happens with them.
Does Melkor corrupt her, or is she already corrupted, springing forth from the darkness, and he just uses her?
I mean, it's sort of like, yeah. From this passage, it does say in the beginning she was one of those that he corrupted to his service. I don't think that implies that she wasn't evil and he kind of corrupted her. I think Tolkien's just using that word to mean like seduced or like enticed. I think she kind of was this dark force in the beginning, but
because he also corrupted elves.
Correct. And Maya, like the Balrogs were Maya spirits, which were originally just good, right? So I don't think it's that same kind of use of the word corruption. I mean, it says she descended from the darkness. I feel like that kind of implies she's this this
just
evil
bad.
force. Yeah.
And can you just remind me why Melkor's so mad?
He's not mad. He just is arrogant, and he thinks he's better than everybody and wants to shape the world to his own devices and wants to create himself like Eru. It's akin to the idea of Lucifer in the Christian mythology, where Lucifer is the chief among the angels and wants to be like God. And because of that, resorts to evil and corruption and strife with their kin.
Got it.
It's very much a Lucifer kind of idea.
Okay.
So he turns to evil because he's trying to emulate God, essentially.
And so he courts death like Thanos.
Exactly, yeah. Thanos thinks he's doing a favor for the universe by shaping it in the image he thinks is perfect, but...
I actually didn't even realize how good of a metaphor that was.
Yeah.
But, yep, 100%. I'm really, really good at
the bad
this.
guys that are the most interesting are the ones that think they're doing good for the world. Similarly with Melkor. So Melkor, the last thing I want to say about this passage is that I love this idea that will come back, a common theme with Ungoliant and Shelob, that they fear the light and hate the light because they are creatures of darkness, but they also want to consume it and they hunger for the light. So it's this kind of love-hate relationship with...
Oh, it's like a perfect narcissist.
Yeah, very much. Like they hate the thing they love.
Which is themselves.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see this come back with Shelob especially. So she's hanging out in the region of Avatar, and she's made this lair of hers where she is spinning forth dark nets of strangling gloom. And it basically, in the words of Tolkien, and it basically makes her lair completely covered in darkness. No light can penetrate. And so she becomes very, very hungry because she feeds off of light, even though she hates it. So it's this kind of, again, the love-hate thing. And so Melkor, he begins plotting his revenge against the Valar with Ungoliant. But when he starts to bring up the Valar, she's hesitant because she's afraid. She's in hiding, right? She doesn't want to get too close, but she's really hungry. She's been living in the darkness for so long. And so Melkor makes a promise that will come back to bite him. He says to her, "If you do as I bid, and if thou hunger still when all is done, I will give thee whatsoever thy lust may demand with both hands." Again,
so that is where all the erotic fiction begins.
He's going to use both hands.
Oh my god!
Whatever your lust demands, Ungoliant.
Oh no! You know, I often think about that one person that's like, Jessica, stop interrupting with your jokes. And you know, if they weren't so funny, and if you didn't laugh, I wouldn't.
Yeah, look.
It's also how I learn too. Is like,
right.
I need to relate in the way that I relate. It's like one-on-one class.
You got to make it personal to yourself, and then you'll remember it. And
then share it for thousands to listen on the internet.
Yeah, so you too can have the weird connection of Melkor using both hands. It's an important plot point, the both hands
Thank
thing.
you. Is it actually?
Oh yeah, it will come back. We will see. Is
it, let me guess, is it because Sauron loses a finger that it's similar imagery, and Melkor loses a hand, so he can't deliver the lust that she'll still have after, and because he only has one hand?
Not quite, but you're on the right path.
Okay.
But yeah, hands and fingers, and yeah, that's an important thing. Yeah, Frodo loses a finger.
Right.
Yeah, so losing hands is a thing, but not in this case. So Melkor convinces her, despite her fears, to go with him and help enact his revenge, and at the same time feed her hunger. So pardon me. So they go forth from her lair And Ungoliant weaves about them a cloak of unlight, as Tolkien says, in which things seemed to be no more, and which eyes could not pierce, for it was void. So she's like, she comes from the darkness and she can summon it forth. I love this idea. Again, another important thing in Tolkien is when things are capitalized, and he capitalizes unlight here. It's this kind of entity.
TM.
Yeah, unlight TM, right. And we see this in, so Shelob, jumping ahead a little bit, Shelob is the last offspring of Ungoliant that we see in the Two Towers. And
Is
when
Melkor daddy? I'm sorry, carry on.
It may be. Well, no, because we specifically learn later on that Ungoliant explicitly devours all of her mates. So
I got it.
yeah. Although maybe she did devour Melkor in one way. Not wholly.
You make jokes too.
I got jokes. So she weaves this unlight about them, and this idea of the kind of unlight. It's not just darkness; it's darkness plus.
Like a void, a black star, kind of.
Yeah, we see this in
Not black star.
Black hole.
Black hole.
Yeah, exactly. We see this in Shelob's lair when Frodo and Sam are going through, and even we get specific reference to this. Even the sound is sort of captured by this darkness that's kind of emanating. So we see Shelob possessing some of the same kind of power of her mother, maybe to a lesser degree.
If only, well, yeah, because her smell is not captured. That or it is, and it's really just that bad.
Shelob smell.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a combination probably of just like her being a nasty creature, and also think of all the bodies.
Well, I know what I'm saying. If that's her lair, though, then the void of her should like.
Oh, I see. You're saying
That's
that
what I'm saying.
the unlight doesn't stifle smell.
No, so Febreze can't take it.
Right. Well, maybe that's an interesting point. Is maybe Shelob can't see through the unlight, but maybe her sense of smell is so keen that that's the only way that she can
know where she is.
Yeah, and like just feeling the tremors and the webs and everything. But maybe she's got a very good sense of smell, and that's how she can.
Gross.
And she just masks everything else with her scent, but she can smell through it.
Ugh, gross.
Interesting stuff to think about.
Yeah, very.
So Ungoliant weaves this cloak of unlight about them, basically rendering them invisible, and they together, Melkor and Ungoliant, pass unseen to the summit of Hyar Mentir, which is I believe the second tallest peak on Aman, and from that peak they can survey the land of Valinor, and Ungoliant weaves ropes of web, and they bound down the mountainside into Valinor. Now, lucky for them, okay, they happen to be doing this at the time of a big old feast that the Valar are having, a festival dedicated to Yavanna, the Valar of nature and harvest, and they're celebrating the first harvesting of the fruits, the time in which they become ripe and they harvest. And so the Valar are having this big feast, perfect distraction. So the timing is perfect. Now, did Melkor know about this, or was this coincidence? I don't know. I would think he probably does know about it, because he's a smart guy.
I would imagine. And it's not like he doesn't know who Yahala was.
Yahoo?
Yaha. Yalala.
Yolanda?
Yolanda don't live here no more. It's not like he doesn't know that they are probably celebrating that. You know, it's like on their calendar year.
Yeah, exactly. It's the same time every year, like clockwork. So they are distracted. And again, I'm going to read this passage because I think it's very cool. So from the Silmarillion, they came before, this is Melkor and Ungoliant, they came before the green mound Ezelohar, which is where the two trees reside. Then the unlight of Ungoliant rose up even to the roots of the trees, And Melkor sprang upon the mound, and with his black spear he smote each tree to its core, wounded them deep, and their sap poured forth as if it were blood, and was spilled upon the ground. But Ungoliant sucked it up, and going then from tree to tree, she set her black beak to their wounds till they were drained. And the poison of death that was in her went into their tissues and withered them, root, branch, and leaf. And they died. And still she thirsted. And going to the wells of Varda, she drank them dry. But Ungoliant belched forth black vapors as she drank, and swelled to a shape so vast and hideous that Melkor was afraid. So, again, we see hunger being the predominant theme about Ungoliant. She just wants to eat everything. She drinks the sap of the two trees, and that's not enough. She drinks from the wells of Varda, and that's, she's belching forth these vapors. And as the more she consumes, the bigger she gets. And I think it's important to note here that Melkor becomes afraid of her. Right? Melkor's like the chief of the Valar, right? He's the first most among the Valar. And even he's looking at her like, oh, okay, I got to watch out. I got to be careful who I've allied myself with.
Yeah, a wrathful woman.
Right? Exactly. You gotta watch your back, folks. Fellas,
Also,
am I right?
He totally expected her to not be hungry anymore too, and she's still hungry. So I would be scared too.
Right? Because remember the promise he made. Like, okay, if you're still hungry, like I'll give you whatever you want. And in his mind, he's thinking, it'll be fine. She'll drink the two trees, and I'll get what I want to get my revenge, and she'll be satiated. But no, she wants more.
Now what do I have to give her?
Well, we'll see. But I love this idea, and I think this is again one of the reasons that I personally don't, because her origin is unknown. Like, I don't buy that she's just like a Maya spirit or something. That I know that is one thing people think. I don't think Melkor would be afraid of a Maya, even if they maybe they get more powerful because they consume some stuff. I think Ungoliant has to be something. She's a wild card. We don't know. She just comes from the void, like to the point that even Melkor's looking at her like, "Oh, I gotta watch out."
Right.
I think that's evidence to support that personally, but other interpretations I think are valid. But yeah, she is a sight to behold. If you could see her in her unlight, she's getting big. So obviously, this does not go unnoticed. The Valar go, oh, snap. And
oh, sap. Oh, it's been...
Oh. There it is. End of the episode. And until next time.
You know what? I am missing Ben roasting me for really bad takes. I am missing that.
I can just, if you listen closely, you can hear his voice.
Oh, I felt it. I felt him listening to this episode and going, Jess.
Oh my God. The podcast would not be the same without them.
No.
So OSAP, the Valar are alerted, and Melkor and Ungoliant flee, and they are chased by the hosts of Arome and by Tolkis, the Valar who wrestled with Melkor at one point.
Is Tolkis like his self-inserted character?
No. Why do you ask that?
Okay. Tolk-esque.
Oh, I see what you're saying. No, I would say I think I could be wrong. I think Tolkien in interviews has said, or some of the letters said he identifies most with Faramir. So I think Faramir.
You mean the best character?
Yeah,
of course.
Exactly.
Okay, J.R.R.
Well, his whole Faramir's whole philosophy on why we need to go to war and those kinds of ideas, I think Tolkien has said he relates to the most. So if anybody, it'd be Faramir. But
sure.
No, Tolkien is just this Valar who's like, all right, I'm gonna go. He's just a big buff dude, and he wrestled Melkor at one point. He's gonna try and do it again. But as soon as they get within that cloud of unlight that Ungoliant makes, they're blinded, dismayed, and they just scatter. So Ungoliant successfully shields them in their escape. And here we get in one of the passages, again, relating this back or forward to Shelob's lair. It says, the riders of the Valor were blinded and dismayed, and they were scattered and went they knew not whither. And the sound of the Valoroma faltered and failed. So we get this same idea of like the cloud of unlight, like stifling sound, which we see in Shelob's lair, which I think is just a cool kind of connection.
Mm-hmm.
And even Tolkis, it says, and Tolkis was caught in a black net at night and stood powerless and beat the air in vain. Stops Tolkis. Ungoliant's strong at this point. She's riding high off that sap. She's stopping Valar, multiple Valar. It's crazy.
Wow.
So after they flee, then again, brushing over stuff in the story not related to Ungoliant, Melkor comes to Formenos, the strongholds that Feanor and his father and Feanor's sons were living at, where they had the Silmarils, where they were keeping them, because we brushed over this. Feanor gets exiled, and his sons go with him, his dad goes with him, Finwë goes with him. So Melkor comes there, kills Finwë, and steals the Silmarils, along with many of the jewels that they had there. And this is when he gets the name Morgoth by Feanor. He meets back up with...
What does Morgoth mean?
Morgoth, I think, just means like the enemy or the betrayer or something like that. I should know this. Let's see. Yeah,
I'm sorry for asking a question.
No. Like this is good. I'm not going to know all the answers, but I believe it means something like betrayer or like black, dark enemy or black foe. That's what it is. Thank you to Tolkien Gateway. So he's renamed Morgoth by Feanor, and so Morgoth now meets up back with Ungoliant, and they flee across the Helcarax to Middle-earth. The Helcarax being this big ice bridge that later the Noldor will, or some of the Noldor will take to Middle-earth. And at this point, Morgoth, like, has what he wants. He has dealt a big blow to the Valar with destroying the two trees, and he has the Silmarils, which he has coveted for such a long time, in his possession.
How did he get the Silmarils?
Excuse me?
Did you say that? How did he get the Silmarils?
They were being kept at Formenos, guarded by...
So he went there?
Yeah.
Did I just miss that?
That's what I just said. Yep.
Was it in a section read by Tolkien where I started feeling asleep?
No, I just said he went to Formenos and killed Finwë and took the Silmarils.
Cool.
I just said it.
Cool.
Look, there's a lot of names and a lot of words flying around, so if you miss a couple things,
I don't think that. I think it's my fault. I think it's my fault and not yours. But so now he just gets the Silmarils. It's like no pomp. He just gets them.
Well, yeah, he kills the king of the Noldor and takes them.
Yeah, but he's on a roll, is what you're saying.
Oh yeah, he's
like,
riding a high. He's like, woo!
Yeah,
and he's all hopped up.
Got it.
So yeah, he just goes there, kills Finwë, takes the Silmarils, takes the other gems that are at Formenos because they have a ton of gems there. And yeah, Feanor finds out about this, doesn't get there in time to try and save his father, names him Morgoth. Morgoth now meets back up with Ungoliant, and they flee across the Helcarax. And Morgoth at this point is, as I said, riding high. He's got the Silmarils. He's got what he has wanted out of this partnership.
Right.
And so he is trying to just bail. Like he's like,
oh no.
He's like, all right, when's my chance?
Like a true dude.
Exactly. Yeah.
They have like a true F-boy, I should say.
They have a one night of passion and excitement.
And then he wakes up and goes, "Oh, you?"
Yeah, exactly. Ooh, big old bloated spider.
Well, I didn't say it. You said it. So now we know how you feel about that. So actually, you said the word spider. I think this is the first time you said spider.
Yes.
So my reason for pointing that out, at what point are we aware that Ungoliant is in the shape of a spider?
I believe it's when she's in her lair at like when we first see her. But
So you've been saying spin webs and stuff like that.
Yes. And she's described as having a beak.
But is she explicitly described as an arachnid?
That's a good question. I don't think the word spider is used until we see her in Ballad. No, it does say. Here's the quote from the chapter of the Darkening of Valinor. So right after the thing I read where she crept towards the light of the Blessed Realm, for she hungered for light but hated it. In a ravine she lived and took shape as a spider of monstrous form.
She took shape. That's interesting. Yeah. So that's why I wanted to specifically speak about that, because then her offspring retains the shape. But so it's not as though she crawled forth from the darkness as a spider.
No.
That's interesting.
Yeah, she's this wild card being, and that's again,
right.
I would say we know that the Maya can kind of take different forms. So that's again one speculation that she's this kind of corrupted Maya. I don't think she is though, but I can see why that makes sense. But yeah, she's just kind of this otherworldly entity from the darkness, and she chooses the form of a spider and kind of maintains that as her physical form. And then, when she goes on to, which we'll get to, when she mates with these other creatures, they kind of maintain that spider form. They are not of the same ilk as her, so they can't shape change, except in certain adaptations of the lore, but not in the canon of Tolkien. So, so she's a spider from basically the time Melkor approaches her onward, or at least assuming that form.
And Beleriand is what again? I know I've heard the word 100
times.
So
Beleriand is part of Middle-earth that exists in the First Age, and then is...
And that's what's destroyed by the Valar?
Yes, it's destroyed in the War of Wrath. So that, right. if you remember in the Rings of Power, we see scenes from that where the destruction of Beleriand. And
yes. Fingolfin. No, the brother.
Yeah, they go.
Finrod.
Yeah, they go to Beleriand. Yeah, that's where that war is fought, and we get explicit reference to it as well in the conversation between. I'm terrible. I'm blanking on I have all the Ungoliant lore names in my head. The corrupted elf we see in Rings of Power.
Oh yes, the guy who's
Adar,
no
Adar,
longer.
That's his name. They
so sad.
Yeah, at when we have Adar talking about his time in Beleriand. Joseph Male. So they go to Beleriand, and Morgoth. His plan is to return to the ruins of Angband, his fortress of old. But they get there. They get to Beleriand, and Ungoliant has her eyes on him, her many eyes. And Ungoliant can tell that he wants to bail. And
yeah, of course. Every girl knows.
Yeah. It's just a feeling you can get. Just see him looking the other way. Yeah, so I got this thing in the morning.
I saw you looking at that. I saw you looking at that other spider.
What are you talking about? What are you talking about, babe?
Oh, don't you ever do that to me.
What spider?
Oh, no. I don't want to ever hear words I never want to hear from you.
What are you talking about, babe? I don't care.
Oh, you're not allowed to call me babe anymore.
So although this does relate to the thing you told me about if you're ever at a gas station and you have the thought in your mind of if your partner wants a snack, you just get it for them. Because here, Ungoliant is like, yeah, I'm still hungry. I know you took all those gems from Forbados, so like, remember your promise that if I was still hungry, you would feed me with both hands.
I can actually hear her saying that. I know what this. I've said these things, but why doesn't she want the Silmarils?
She doesn't know about the Silmarils.
How does she not know about the Silmarils?
She just doesn't. She's been in her lair.
Oh, so but how does she know
Avatar.
about the gems then?
Maybe she doesn't explicitly know about the gems.
Wait. He was out. He killed the king of the Noldor without her.
Yeah.
He didn't. Why did he go back?
Because he needed her help to escape with her shroud of unlight.
Oh,
I believe
gotcha.
is the reasoning.
Because he was out scot-free. He could have just bailed.
Yeah, or maybe they went. It's kind of unclear. I mean, I can look, but yeah, I believe that after they fled in her cloud of unlight, that's when he goes to Formanos. Maybe it's something where he's like, "Hey, can we stop at Formanos along the way? I just wait.
That's
wait outside. I'll take care of this."
Yeah. Yeah, that's what my impression was.
But
she's in the car listening to TLC or something.
Exactly. Yeah. Stay in the car, babe. I'll be right back. So
I hate you.
Or maybe she.
It's a character you play really well.
Maybe she was there with him and she just didn't see him take the Silmarils.
That's
Also,
dumb.
They're just 3 gems. They're not that conspicuous. But either way, she doesn't know about him because she wasn't there when they were made. She doesn't know about all of his motivations except for revenge. So he gives her the gems after she's like, I'm hungry. Gives her the gems that he took with his left hand, but in his right, he's holding the Silmarils in a crystal casket that they're kept in, which I just think is cool. And they're burning his hand because he's clenching them so tight,
evil.
And they're like filled with this pure good light, but he wants them. And then Ungoliant's like, remember you said you'd use both hands to feed my lust. And then he basically is like, well, yeah, but I'm claiming these as my own, so like you can't have them. He just makes a claim on them. He's like, I'm the one who took these, blah, blah, blah. And Ungoliant does not like this. And guess what? She just ate all the other gems. And so she grew even bigger and even more powerful. She's like on a bender. She's had the sap from the 2 trees. She's had the water from the wells. And she even puked after that. Like she's going nuts. She's on an insane.
Sounds like a weekend in Vegas.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. And now she just ate all these gems.
That's the real Lord of the Rings experience, is have a weekend as Ungoliant and Melkor in Vegas. This is like a 2-day scavenger hunt or something. Like you have to go drink the elixir of the 2 trees and then bathe in the Venetian waters.
I am all for that. We got to find all the analogs for the things in the story and just do that. 100%. So Ungoliant eats all these gems and grows powerful, and Morgoth has spent some of his energy in killing Finwë and taking these Silmarils, and also just from like holding on to the Silmarils, right? So she's real powerful, he's real weak, and she envelops him in her cloud of darkness, spins him up in a web, and he lets out a horrible cry. It says directly from the chapter, Morgoth sent forth a terrible cry that echoed in the mountains. The cry of Morgoth in that hour was the greatest and most dreadful that was ever heard in the northern world. The mountains shook, and the earth trembled, and rocks were riven asunder. Deep in forgotten places, that cry was heard. And because of this, that area in northern Beleriand becomes known as Lamoth, which means the Great Echo. And it was said that anyone who cried out, it would like release Morgoth's cry from the rocks, and it would echo and bounce. Like it forever. Like his cry was so great, he was so scared of Ungoliant in that moment that his voice forever changed the earth, which is
what
insane.
A loser. See, this is what happens when you're an F-boy and you really put to your when you put your words to the test. You're like, no, babe.
I think it not only says that Morgoth in this moment is an F-boy, but also just how scary Ungoliant is. Again, like she's just on a tear, right? Again, why I think she's one of the cooler characters, in that she makes Morgoth so afraid in this moment, and she just like webs him up, right? What other person has done that? Just single-handedly, taking care of Morgoth like that? Nobody.
In a battle between Ungoliant and Smaug, Ungoliant wins, right?
I mean, here's the thing. So this is like Ungoliant at her height, right? She's eating, she's consuming, and so she's powerful. And she's consumed some of the most powerful things ever created, right? So she's, it can't be this powerful forever, but she has the capacity to be this powerful. So depending on when she fights Smaug, I think, yeah, she easily defeats Smaug if she's fed on something substantial. But we see that when she doesn't feed, she slowly withers and kind of diminishes. So
okay,
she can't maintain that power level forever.
An idea for another future episode is how, when, where, why dragons, and why they and like where did they come from?
Yeah.
And why did they start to diminish? So that's another episode to talk about in the future.
From spiders to dragons. I love it.
Yeah.
Dragons are very cool. There's some fun battles with dragons that we can talk about. So that'll be a future episode. So Morgoth lets out his cry.
What a bit.
And it reaches. It's again so powerful and terrible that not only do just everyone in Beleriand hears it and they're like, "What's going on?" And they rename the region that. But his Balrogs, which have been waiting for him in the depths of Angband, hear it. And they fly forth from, not literally, they fly forth from Angband, and they save him from the web of Ungoliant with their whips of fire. They whoosh, whip the webs away and save their master. So Morgoth has to be saved by his servants. And so once he has a whole army of Balrogs with him, then Ungoliant flees. She's fed. She doesn't get the Silmarils that like she wanted, but she's had a good amount to eat. So she flees south to a mountain, a vale underneath a mountain range in Beleriand. It's north of Doriath, and the mountain range becomes known as Arid Gorgoth, and the vale Non-Dungotheb, which means the Valley of Dreadful Death, because she flees there and starts breeding with some of these spider-like creatures that were left over from Melkor's reign, or Morgoth's reign. So
he likes spiders. She took a spider form because she knows that Melkor likes spiders.
Oh, she's trying to
Yeah.
You think she's trying to seduce him?
Yes.
Huh. Interesting. Or maybe she's like, oh, I can not because she likes him, but she's like, oh, I can get to him with this. He'll see a spider and be like, ooh.
I think it's a confusing Bonnie and Clyde situation.
It's just a very toxic relationship.
100%. So wait, why did Melkor have leftover spiders in Beleriand? When was he in Beleriand?
Oh, he had a fortress over there, and he was.
And that's where he wanted to go back to?
Yeah.
Got it. But why did he have spiders over there?
He had all sorts of evil creatures.
Okay, well, I'm just saying.
Yeah, all the remnants of his forces were just there.
And then she goes to hook up with his friends? I'm telling you.
Well, she needed to feed. So she, again, similar to Shelob, after her, mates with these creatures and then eats her mates.
She goes on a revenge tour.
Yeah,
is what
pretty much. She's very very hurt after the breakup. He wouldn't get me the gems I wanted. That's all I asked for.
She hooks up with his best friends and then kills them.
No, with his kids. It's like the show you've been watching, Jess.
Wait, though he made spider children?
They're his minions. They're kind of like his kids,
How?
Because
don't say things without meaning them accurately.
They're not literally his kids, but they're,
since be accurate with your words.
In spirit, his children.
Well, she's messing. It's Fast and Furious. She's messing with his crew. Family. This is why Vin Diesel said it's hard to write mythology like J.R.R. Tolkien.
He said that?
I'm sorry. You did not see the retweet?
No.
When they had the most recent release party for Fast and Furious, the reason why Vin Diesel said that they can't continue is because he understands how hard it is to continue mythology, and that's why J.R.R. must have stopped too.
Okay, we all know Vin Diesel's a big nerd. He did that whole, what was not The Witcher, but like the Witch Hunter movie or whatever, and did like D.
I don't know that.
He's played D&D. He's a big nerd. I think he has a misunderstanding of why Tolkien stopped. It's because he died. He was. I also am misquoting. I didn't come in prepared with the quote, but I'm just saying. He says he understands it's really hard to continue with the mythologies. I love that Vin Diesel is comparing the Fast and the Furious franchise to Tolkien's Middle Earth mythos. I think that's amazing.
And Michelle Rodriguez, right, is the actress. Yeah. When asked like why are they so, this was it was a hot night, and it was asked why the series was so popular, and she like I guess her thing is that she gets drunk often, and like that's part of her charm. Sure. And she's like we give a voice to the voiceless.
Wow. I mean, look, I know that this is one of the most popular movie franchises ever, but I think they might be overvaluing its cultural staying power and importance. I don't know if in 20 years we're going to be talking Fast and Furious. It's hot now, though, and it's popular. And you know what? Some of the movies are good. They're fun. Is it on the level of Tolkien, and is it giving a voice to the voiceless? I'll let people decide for themselves. But it does have real fast cars and fun explosions.
Yeah, the cars are like Shadowfax, okay?
Don't you dare.
Or
don't you dare go down this road. I won't have it.
Babe, I've just got to go inside. It's just got to... Babe.
I know how it feels now. All right, so Ungoliant, Jesus Christ. Getting back, I'm trying to get back on track here, and my mind is reeling. Ungoliant sets up her home base, mates with these spider-like creatures, eats them, has a bunch of children, and the last of her children is named Shelob, which literally just means lady spider.
Oh, that's really clever.
Yeah. And Ungoliant eventually leaves Non-Dungatheb, the Valley of Dreadful Death, and makes her way into the unknown southern regions of the world. And it is said that although her final fate is unknown, some say that in her ever-growing hunger, she eventually devours herself. So she gets so hungry and there's nothing to eat that she just eats herself, which is great. I think it's a fitting end to that tale.
That's a wonderful end, especially if you like crawl forth from the darkness and you're just all kinds of evil and you're lusting. It's a metaphor that'll never be sated, right?
Exactly.
So,
yeah.
I think this is a cautionary tale.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. 100%. You don't want to be like Ungoliant.
No, you don't.
Not a good role model.
Or an F-boy like Melkor or Morgoth boy.
No, you definitely don't. You definitely don't. Neither of these people are role models. But it makes for a fun story.
It really is a fun story. I'm grateful to go into this in depth because, you had me learn about the trees and they are important and they permeate the movies, the books. It's important for setting the stage for all of the world that Tolkien created. I just keep on forgetting how they were destroyed.
Right.
And this is so so important to how they're destroyed.
Yeah.
Like it should be the day Ungoliant showed up. It's not, oh yeah, the day the 2 trees died. No. It's like saying like, oh yeah, the freeway fell. Yeah, the freeway fell because there was an earthquake. It's like leaving the cause out. Yeah. And I know you didn't. You may have even mentioned how this happened, but actually getting the background for it and the visual is so important. And mind you, audience, I'm not reading these. Alex is reading these, so he's remembering it. He's just telling it to me. So, but it's so that imagery changes my whole perspective on. Yeah,
because Morgoth could have easily, or Melkor at the time, could have easily just destroyed the 2 trees by himself.
Could he have easily? Why did he decide to bring her on then?
So the reason is so he could, in my mind, her unlight, her darkness, right? He knew about this from working with, corrupting her in the past. He needed the stealth and secrecy. But, like, it's him who just stabs the trees and their sap leaks everywhere. She just happens to devour the sap as they die.
Well, yeah, they were dying. I think what it insinuated, though, is that she kept it so that they couldn't even be healed or come back.
Maybe. And she, like expedited the process of, like, sucking all the sap out real quick because she real hungry.
And she left the her poison in with the sap, right. She poisoned. So yeah,
it was a dual effort on the part of
for 2 trees.
Yeah, required two big bads.
Lorlin and Balerion. No wait, Lorlin and Edrisol. Lorlin and
ask your doctor about Edrisol.
Exactly. Oh, I had Balerion. What does it start with? Oh, Telperion.
Yeah, there you go. Just need a little push. Yeah, Laurelin and Telperion, the 2 trees. So, brief epilogue to Ungoliant's tale as it relates to the Lord of the Rings. We've already talked a little bit about Shelob, but I think one of the coolest elements of there's a couple cool elements of Shelob's story as they relate. So number 1, and we just read this in the 2 Towers, and I could see you reaching down and petting your cat. One of your cats. I can't see which one. So it's...
No one needed to know that.
No, it relates. Because Shelob eventually goes to live in Efelduoth, the Mountains of Shadow, which are the mountains on the western edge of Mordor. And she comes there before Sauron even enters Mordor, before Barad-dûr begins being built in the Second Age, which I will say means we might see Shelob in the Rings of Power. I was
thinking the same exact thing. So it's actually odd that the spider in the hills isn't mentioned in the first Rings of Power. You know what I mean?
Well, we've seen little of...
I understand.
Mordor.
I'm just saying 100% Shelob's involved. It has to be.
It's possible. It's possible. Yeah,
I was thinking the same exact thing while you were reading that based off of where she was. And I was like, wait, Shelob been there.
Yeah.
So
we may see Shelob, but Sauron knows she's there, and she feeds upon elves and men, and eventually orcs, because elves and men stop going near her. And Sauron, this is all described in the chapter where we see her in Lord of the Rings, Shelob's lair. Sauron leaves her there and is like, she's a better guard of that past than anybody. Anything I could build there, so I'm going to leave her alone. And it says explicitly that he calls her his cat, which I think is hilarious. He's just like, oh, my little pet Shelob, my cat.
Wow. It's interesting too, because Melkor's daddy basically to Sauron.
Yes. Oh, so now he's daddy and they're his children, but before, when I said it, it was
no, because literally Sauron is like is like the emotional offspring of Melkor. Wouldn't you say?
I mean, Sauron is a Maya, so they were created at the same time.
Isn't
Melkor didn't create Sauron, but I would say he viewed him as a father figure.
Why was Melkor more powerful than Sauron then? Maybe that's a conversation for another episode.
Because he's a Valar.
Oh, because he was Maya.
Yeah,
And Valar are different. So than Maya.
The Maya and the Valar are all of the
I see.
Ainur, which were like the first beings created by Eru, but the Valar are like kind of a tier above the Maiar.
I understand now. I mean, I don't, but I understand. But so it's just weird. Like the lesser of both are hanging out.
Exactly.
It is interesting.
Like our parents knew each other. They worked together. Oh, hey.
And if you really want to get down to the nitty gritty, Melkor Morgoth only really did think of the Ungoliant as a cat. You know what I mean?
No, thinking of synonyms, racking my brain.
There you go.
Leave that one to the listener. So, speaking of that, well, no, before we I want to end with that because it's just so wild. The other connection that I think is really cool is when Frodo and Sam enter Shelob's lair, they are able to, Frodo specifically in the beginning, is able to use the Phial of Galadriel. This is like the big moment they use it, but previously they use it when they're outside of Minas Morgul. But to see, it cuts through the darkness of Shelob. And I think this is, again, a really cool connection because when you know the history of Ungoliant with the Silmarils, you now have, the light. So the light of the Silmarils, right, is basically the
Arendelle.
The light of Arendelle, yes. But it is a light from a Silmaril captured in the water of the reflecting mirror, the mirror of Galadriel. And so the light from the Silmaril, which is in the sky, Arendelle, in his ship Vingolot, that light comes from the two trees because the light of the Silmarils was captured from the two trees. So you have this sort of coming back around, like circular relationship of we have the passed down light of the two trees again encountering the offspring of Ungoliant, the one who devoured the two trees. It's this really cool kind of coming together moment for these ideas in the legend, which I think is really cool. And so Frodo's able to use that very light that her mother consumed to ward off Shelob, and then eventually Sam uses it to completely incapacitate and like blind her. So right. The thing that her mother consumed is then used to defeat.
Consumed. Question two, and I thought you would get to this. The spiders in Mirkwood, yes, in The Hobbit are also descendant, or they're descendant of Shelob.
Correct. Yeah, they're descendants of Shelob. So Shelob is she escapes Beleriand before or during its fall. We don't know exactly. Makes her way to Efelduath, the mountains on the western side of Mordor, begins breeding, and then, like her mother, eats her mates. But the smaller of her offspring sort of spread forth, and eventually a lot of them make their way to Mirkwood and Dol Guldur and start, multiplying there.
Can Shelob talk because the Mirkwood spiders can?
So, interesting point. I believe that the explanation that Tolkien kind of retconned, and I could be wrong on this. This is my understanding. I don't know where I got this from, but I remember reading this somewhere or seeing something about this, is that originally the intent was, oh yeah, just talking spiders, whatever. But then when Tolkien went back to connect it to his world, he was like, this doesn't make sense. And so I think the implication, and it's also, we kind of see this in the Peter Jackson film implied, and I think this was Tolkien's explanation, is that because Bilbo is wearing the ring, he is sort of has the ability then to understand the speech, quote unquote.
I thought that was Peter Jackson.
It might be. It might just be the Jacksonian take on it, but I like it because, yeah, the talking spiders doesn't make sense for fitting it in with the larger Lord of the Rings and Silmarillion worlds. They shouldn't be able to talk. Shelob does not talk. Unless...
Although Shelob does talk to Gollum. Like, Gollum understands Shelob.
Yes. I guess here's the thing. We don't know if Shelob talks. We never hear her talk.
On paper, yeah, in real time.
But she's not an unintelligent being. I don't know. It seems weird to me that she would talk. But I guess we don't know. I mean, I think it's more that they come to an understanding, and we learn that like Shelob she leaves Gollum alive because she's not good for eating. He's this scrawny little creature, and is able to convince her. But did they have a conversation, or was it more like they came to an understanding? I don't know. I have a hard time imagining they had like a conversation with each other. Could be wrong on that though. We never see it sort of played out in the book from our narrator's perspective. It's just kind of explained. So, but I will say, and this is the thing I wanted to end on. So I am a fan of the Shadow of War / Shadow of Mordor video games, which I have streamed on my Twitch channel. And in the Shadow of War game, we get a version of Shelob that is very interesting, that can talk, that for some reason has much more of the powers of her mother than the canonical version, and can transform into an extremely sexy, dark-haired woman, and does. So in that,
on a scale from 1 to 10, how attracted are you to that character, that iteration?
I mean, are we comparing to the normal version of Shelob?
No. I mean, are you attracted to that?
I mean,
one?
Yeah, she's hot. I don't know, 7. 7 out of 10.
No,
she's pretty sexy. They did a good job of making you question things while you're playing that game.
Oh no.
So in that game, the main character encounters her, and she ends up getting the One Ring. Or sorry, not the One Ring. She ends up getting the newly forged opposed One Ring. I don't know. Maybe one day we'll do a whole episode on all the crazy lore that's in those games. But I just wanted to bring it up because in that version there's Shelob, and in that version, if you do some of the side quests to get collectibles, they unlock like visions of Shelob, because she's also said to have like powers of foresight and stuff. She can like see into the future. It's weird. It's implied that her and Sauron have like a romantic relationship.
Okay. I think this is where we call it today.
Non-canon. I had to bring it up.
I can't compete with Galadriel and your imagery of her, and now I have to compete with Shelob. I don't want to.
Babe, I got these gems for you.
No. Give me your somewhere else or nothing.
No, I'm claiming these from Ellen. They're in my right hand. Babe, just trust me, babe.
What's mine is yours. What's mine is
just
yours.
Trust me, babe. Don't wet me up.
You know what? That's really what the relationship is. It's a Dom sub relationship. He's just, no one's sure who's the Dom and no one's sure who's the sub.
Yeah.
He loves being tied up.
Yeah. Well, it's that thing that like, men who in their lives are like CEOs and like super powerful positions. They're like, oh yeah, I'm like, whatever. They like that dynamic with a woman. They're typically the ones who go for that. So I think it's the same with Melkor / Morgoth. Yeah. Good
Lord. All right. I think this is. Are you done now?
Wow. Okay. Yes, that was the last point I had. Was we get sexy Shelob in those video games. So go play those games.
No. Okay. So we have a couple things that we need from our audiences. Let us know if / fiction is same gendered relationships that from works of fiction, or if it's just what erotica fan fiction is. I think it's just same gender, because I did a little piece with Jesse Gender on how / fiction saved Star Trek, and me and Mary Chifo read a Spock Kirk / and we didn't read the explicit parts, but we read the the
tame,
the preamble,
the lead up,
and it was basically how women in particular, and there's one of our Twitch friends, Tiny Chris Games, was sharing that it tends to be women who write fanfic. A lot of women just really loved the relationship between Kirk and Spock and wanted to see them hash it out. But yeah, so our audience has to answer that. And this was a particularly horny episode. I don't apologize for that, because it is our preamble to us getting 20 Patreon subscribers in order to review the Lord of the Rings porn. What is the name of that? Do you know what it is off the top of your head?
I believe it is Lord of the G-Strings.
There it is, Lord of the G-Strings.
I'm sure there's others, but I think that's the one that Scott was mentioning.
That's the one we're going to do. Not, we're going to watch and talk about exclusively for our patrons. So you want to get on that by joining us over at www.patreon.com/pod of the rings, honestly. Alex, what are other ways our audience can get engaged with us?
Well, they can go follow us on Twitter over at Pod of the Rings and check out the amazing new Twitter profile pic that you put up there. It is very good. And people can also email us at podcastoftheRings@gmail.com. Give us your thoughts. And you can just go to podcastoftherings.com and get all the links there.
And don't forget, Alex Twitch streams. He's not Twitch streaming Shadow of War, but he's over at twitch.tv/Solkatu, SOLKATTU. I'm Jessica Nerdy, twitch.tv/Jessica NERDY.
I will say I will be doing. We have an incentive over there, and I will be doing an entirely Lord of the Rings themed stream, including a cosplay. When we reach that goal. So I will be playing the Shadow of War game during that stream. So yeah, stay tuned to my Twitch page for when that's going to happen.
You got a couple things to do with us. Yeah, you guys have to keep us busy, please. And join our Discord. The link is in our liner notes for the show. We have rousing conversations, usually revolving around how I'm wrong about something. But you know what? I'm used to being that kind of target. So shoot me. Alex, this has been wonderful. Welcome back to Lore World. I can't wait to see what else is on the table. I'm looking forward to dragon conversations. I think we're going to have a couple of series where like this versus that, like that could be fun. And I want to know more about Melkor, Morgoth, Sauron. So, and eventually we're going to get to Baron and Luthien. That's something that's important to me. And if you have something you want us to talk about specifically, don't be afraid to let us know. Or be afraid. Be very afraid. Alex, anything else you want to tell our friends?
No, I think that's it.
All right. Well, until next time.
May our roads meet again.
Ooh.